Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Historical Humans podcast. On episode 13 of season 3, our midway mark, we're going to be talking about quite the interesting topic, but before we go there, I'm joined today by my co-host Colum Coleman. My name's
Hello.
Justin Woods, and we are going to be talking about the Qing Dynasty of China.
Yep. Now, one of the fun things to mention before we get into the Qing themselves is, unlike a lot of our previous videos on dynastics situations or various empires, we will not be doing a list of kings. In fact, we were going to go all the way to the end of this video before we mention a single Qing emperor by name. And the reason for that is we wanted to try something different with our various dynastic episodes to see whether or not you like it more than what we usually do, which we did in our previous episode, the Seleucids, which is a list of kings and their various accomplishments and, in the case of the Seleucids, all the horrible things that went wrong during their reign. Instead, we're going to be focusing more broadly on the history of Qing rule in China and some of its cultural achievements. Yeah, with that out of the way, the Qing are the final imperial dynasty of China, who ruled it from 1644 to 1912.
That's surprisingly recent.
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
like
it is.
just pre-World War One.
Yep. Yeah, they make it pretty far in history. However, like many royal dynasties and great empires, they are claimed by the changes of the 20th century.
God damn you, modernization! Look at what you've taken from us.
Yeah.
Look at what we had.
Yeah.
We
However,
were a dynasty.
Yep. However, during their reign, they managed to triple the size of China, which grew the population from 150 million people to 450 million. They ruled all of modern China, plus Taiwan and Mongolia, and bits of a few other states that will get mentioned later when they are, shall we say, briefly incorporated into the overall whole.
Well, since you said that sentence, we are about to get banned on TikTok. Yeah, buddy.
I know, it's great. Listen, this will not be the first time we end up either picking sides or violating the one China policy of every nation state. It is why we do not claim to be sovereign.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, things are going to get very saucy when we talk about the Taiping Rebellion.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's in here too, guys.
Oh, can we not go a single week without some dark topics?
Oh, no, we can't. No, we can't.
No.
Anyway, but we're not to the bad stuff yet. The Qing Dynasty has a degree of relative stability, especially compared to the previous dynasty that we talked about on this channel, the Seleucids, because the Qing are known for the longevity of their emperors. They produce only 11 emperors over 376 continuous years of rule.
Wait, that breaks down to like 30 years a ruler on average.
Yep. There are only 2 rulers who rule for less than 10 years, and I believe third place goes to a 19-year reign.
Wow.
Could be mistaken about third place there.
I feel bad for the last guy then.
Yeah. Yep. Now, some of you might notice that 376 years is not the amount of years between 1644 and 1912. That is because they rule as kings in Manchuria, beginning about 8 years before they take over all of China proper. So it's 376 years if you count the founding of the dynasty in Manchuria, and 368 if you count when they acquired the title Emperor of China. So there's that lovely little numbers dispute right there for all the bean counters in the world.
Hey.
Yeah,
We affectionately refer them as to math geeks, but
yeah, yeah, yeah. Now they are an ethnically Manchu dynasty from Manchuria. This will be used against them frequently.
we love ethnic diversity.
Yeah. Yeah. Despite the Qing becoming
Mm.
heavily Sinicized, which is the word for being a culture being made Chinese, they are still throughout almost the entirety of their rule regarded as foreign by most of the Chinese people, which is
Wow.
hilarious.
I mean, to be fair, with a country as large as China, you're going to get a lot of regional variants and regional different
Yeah.
ethnicities, and
Yeah.
it would not surprise me if China could, in theory, support multiple nations.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to
Just
go to the
just
ethnic nation
saying.
state, China doesn't exist. So let's just leave it there. These, yeah, Manchuria, for those who don't know, is the region of northeastern China between the Koreas and Russia. It is that lovely region up there. Um, Now the uh, the Qing supplanted the Ming Dynasty in 1644. Now, the Ming had ruled China for almost 300 years. They'd been in charge since 1368. And what happens to the Ming is that they invite the Qing over from Manchuria when the capital of Beijing is captured by people sort of rebelling against the Ming rule. The Ming are, not in a good way. They invite the Qing as like, hey, you got good soldiers. Why don't you come help put down this rebellion? We'll pay you. The Qing get to Beijing. They liberate it from the rebels and decide that this is a nice city and they are going to stay.
I love it. They're like, oh yes, our payment is the city.
Yeah,
Wait, no, we told you we'd pay you in the city. Yes, you pay me the city.
yeah. The Qing proceed to wipe out both the rebels and the Ming and install themselves as the emperors of China.
I could see myself fitting in quite here. You southern folk tend to have it kind of nice out here.
Well, it's like it's like it's like it's just yeah. Oh, we got a big city now.
Ooh. And these
Like,
guys are weak. We might as well just take them out while we're here. We're just doing them a
yeah,
favor.
yeah. It's pretty funny. Now, right off the bat, the Qing prove themselves not simply warlords and conquerors, but actually very cunning statesmen because they implement a series of policies designed to balance Qing rule with Ming traditions, allowing a semblance of stability and continuity that is designed to, if not breed social acceptance, at the very least prevent stakeholders from outright rebelling.
Okay, but this is actually a really tactful advantage because when you front Ming officials and you still maintain a lot of system that's in place, there's not much work that needs to be done on your end to rectify it. And
Yep.
quite honestly, I think it's quite a clever solution because you quash certain rebellions because to overhaul a system would cause a lot of disruption and people wouldn't vibe quite as much if you used a foreign people to rule.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is why not only do they keep the Ming system of government in place, they continue to employ almost all of the Ming officials that were employed under the Ming dynasty. They make only one key change to the state bureaucracy, and that is at least half of all high ranking positions in the government must be occupied by officials who were Manchu or Qing. So their people had to hold half of the high ranking, uh, senator, chairman, leader of foreign relations, general, all those positions, half of them have to come from Manchuria. This ensures that at least half of the government will remain loyal in the event of a rebellion.
Hey, that's good odds. Because then you get one or two turncoats on the other side, you're golden.
Yep. Now, the other thing the Qing do is any military leader, anyone who commands an army of the Ming that surrenders itself to the Qing and accepts Qing rule, that leader will receive noble titles and lands. So you could very much go from being the equivalent of a colonel or a general to being a land baron and owning a province of China.
That's a pretty solid deal, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
To anyone
so now
who
you
looks
found
at it.
all the competent officers and bribed them onto your side, leaving only the fanatical diehards you were never going to rule to oppose you. Yep. They then dispersed the conquered armies in the Luying, which is the Army of the Green Standard. What this meant was that all the old regiments got shaken up, mixed together, and put in new garrisons. But these new regiments were not allowed in certain places. For, you see, Manchu banner troops, troops that share the same ethnicity as the Qing, were the only troops that were allowed to be stationed in the capital and at a number of key access points throughout the country that would prevent one group rebellion from linking up with another.
Again, kind of tactful, kind of smart. You can't hate on it.
Yeah, the Qing come out strong. They were established as a dynasty 8 years ago. They invade the Ming, and they are golden as far as getting stuff done.
I mean, that's pretty effective to get a lot of people on your side and really find a way to make people more loyal in a pretty quick turnaround. You promise them money, you promise them a comfortable life, you give them everything that they want, but you also cover your own behind end. Tactful.
Yep. And then they are quick to prove that they have what is often referred to as the divine mandate, which is a Chinese principle that states that if the government, that since the government tends to exist by the will of heaven, that it will manifest this will by showing success in foreign wars, bountiful crops, putting down rebellions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
They're quick to prove that they have it. As an era of prosperity extends for the 17th and 18th centuries under the Qing. In fact, a mere 45 years after they have taken power, there is the Treaty at Nerchinsk, which concludes a war between the Qing and Russia, in which Russia lost major territorial concessions in and around Manchuria to China.
Russia will remember this.
Yes, they will. The border of Manchuria is expanded northward all the way to the Argun River. Russia loses massive amounts of territory, and they remain pissed off about this for the next 300 years.
It quite literally was the conclusion of the Sino-Japanese War that ate up a lot of that land.
Yep.
Very interesting, but yeah, they got their revenge a few hundred years later.
Yeah, we get to talk about that. That will be another 200 years before the Russians get a chance to strike back.
Oh, man.
Then from 1689 to 1729, they are engaged in what is known as the conquest of the Dzungar Mongols. Now, this is a group of Mongols that are in control of what is known as Outer Mongolia, which is like the southern half of what is now Mongolia, as well as a few other territories. And this general conquest more or less amounts to China conquering Outer Mongolia, Dzungaria, Tibet, Turkestan, and Nepal.
So they basically conquered until the mountains, and then they effectively stopped.
They got into mountains. I think they got over the mountains in a few places, but more or less, more or less, like it's like, do we want to involve ourselves with India? No, no. The Mughals are still over there,
Mm.
which is another video we did earlier this season.
All right, so then we go up further. What? West? Oh, now we're in Turkestan. Okay. There's still some Mongols further west of here. Let's turn back and go the other way.
It's just like, the Mongols in Uzbekistan ruling until the Soviet Union just turn and look at them.
God, we've done 2 videos on the Mongols so far.
Yeah, we've done 2 videos on them, the Great Khans and then the Khanites, which are all the successor states to Genghis Khan and everybody else there.
Oh, we're covering a lot of topics. Love it.
Yeah. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure the Ming are the people who overthrow Kublai Khan's dynasty.
Oops.
I'm like 50-50 on that.
Did I do
not
that?
remember. Yeah, I do not properly remember. There's a lot of things going around here that I'm just doing off memory. It's great. One of the interesting policies of the Qing, though, during the 17th and 18th century is they tolerate Catholic missionaries. And in fact, they encourage them a little bit to come. Not because they're interested in Christianity. They don't care about that right now. But because they found out that these Catholic people are really good astronomers. And the Chinese like that.
Which I find it to be very ironic around this period because we're not that far removed from the whole exploits of Galileo and Copernicus. Maybe 100 years, 150 years.
Yeah. China has spent the last few centuries really turned inward, looking at itself. And so having these people who can tell you all this stuff about stars and hemispheres and whatnot is actually kind of useful to them, and it really helps them sort of speed run the catching up they need in a few key areas of science. Also, these missionaries do a lot of religious artwork, and so they're actually pretty talented sculptors and painters, and the Qing also like that. So
I'm just getting a kick out of the irony that they fought the improvement of astronomy, and now here they are as the experts.
Yeah, they fight it so hard, and then because they're fighting it so hard, they're actually good at it, and the Chinese start employing them. And it's like, so you're telling me I have to listen to you once a week talk about morality, and in return, you will map the stars and paint my portrait. Okay.
And you will tell me when crop cycles shall be harvested. Full moons.
Yeah, it's like, let's do that. There are 3 key industries that flourish during this period under the Qing. That is painting, printing, and porcelain making. Now, with the painting, there is an emphasis on what is known as literati painting, which is an artistic rendition that values personal expression above all else. As in, we don't care what you commissioned. This is how I feel the mountain looks like.
Oh.
Or, this is how I feel you look like, sir. No, I did not add horns.
How pissed off do you think some of the people were? This is not what I commissioned. This is not what I wanted. You commissioned an artist, and an artist I am. You are stuck with my artwork.
The truly scary part of this, though, is this led to a tradition among the Chinese to not classify artists by their artistic style, but to classify them by where their studio was. So you become known as one of the masters of Tianjin. You do not become known as an impressionist master. Which means that you can go to you can go to the list of these artists and see wildly different art forms. Which really makes the classification system fun because, it's not just one thing done by 10 different people. It's 10 different things done by 10 different people.
I just love that it's classified based on effectively their neighborhood, their neck of the woods.
Yeah, it's geography. It's like, no.
We have the masters of the West. We have the masters of the East.
That's literally what some of the names translate as.
I'm not surprised.
it's one of those things like the artists are too individualistic to accept categorization. So we just start naming them by the city they're in. It's like, you deny you're in the city? You deny you're in the city. Yes or no? And then it's like, then you have to take the title. It's very funny. Um Porcelain attains the highest degree of mastery in history. The porcelain is all handmade, but it does not bear so much as a fingerprint from the artist. There is no sign that a human hand made these objects, yet they are all made by hand. That is how perfectly designed and implemented the art of pottery has become for the Chinese under the Qing. Additionally, there's the introduction of colored glazes to Chinese porcelain. When you think of Chinese porcelain, you're primarily thinking of blue blue glaze on a white background. That is not the type of porcelain that the Qing like to produce. The Qing instead focus on the introduction of what is known as copper red, aka blown red, aka ox blood.
It's a couple of different names.
Yeah, depending on whether you're asking the French, the English, or the Chinese. I believe oxblood is the French name, blown red is the Chinese name, and copper red is the English name because, let's be honest, the English think even those words are too exciting.
I like the difference because the French found a rough look-alike that's very kind of exotic. The British were more pragmatic and practical, and then the Chinese were like, yeah, it's blown red. That's what happens when you blow red pigment into the.
yeah. It's like how'd you get on it? It's blown red. It's in the name. Yeah. This leads to two distinct art styles of Qing pottery, which are these green and red based porcelains. There's Family Verde, which is a red and brown pattern on a green background, and Family Rose, which is a green and blue pattern on a red background.
Ooh, very fancy.
Yeah. Finally, there's the development of what is known as Peking opera at the end of the 18th century. Now, the Qing have been expanding the borders of their empire for the first half of the 18th century and the back half of the preceding 17th century. They've spent the rest of this century consolidating stuff, and that means people from one side of this massive country are meeting with people from the other side, and all the musicians start to collaborate, and they create this new form of theater by combining several different regional musical theater styles to create a full orchestra of drums, woodwinds, and gongs that are known for featuring these repeating tunes with different lyrics as a means of creating theme. Without ever having seen one, my best understanding of this is that kind of like how if you watch a Marvel movie, whenever the Avengers need to assemble, there's that one musical tone that starts playing. Imagine if every time that happened, Captain America broke into song about how the Avengers are feeling right now. And you should about have what Peking opera is doing here as an innovation to create thematic structure, which I personally really like because apparently none of the regional forms did this. It was considered bad form to have a recurring musical number.
Oh, jeez.
Peking opera goes against that, which is a beautiful innovation.
Beautiful, beautiful. We love it. We love good theater work, good instruments.
Yeah. Now, the Qing, as a dynasty that some might not have considered Chinese during their rule, developed somewhat expectedly an obsession with the past. This is partially a means of, legitimizing and glorifying themselves and comparing themselves to the fabled, ancestors that came before them, all the great Chinese emperors and their dynasties that predate the Qing. There is a cultural obsession with collection, with cataloging, and with providing commentation on the past. You know, generally a waste of time when you're supposed to be living life and making history, right? I can't see anyone else spending their lives like this. Can you, Justin?
No, honestly, that sounds like a kind of miserable existence. I mean, how do you spend time living in the moment if you're just constantly stuck in the past?
Yeah, you're just obsessed with what long dead people did and thought and made, right? What kind of profession would that be?
Not one that I could ever do. I would be so boring. What
Yeah,
would you
no,
do all day?
it's terrible. Well, good news for you, Justin, because what this did mean was that artistic form became repetitive, but very high caliber. It also means that the Chinese invented a new form of science, one which I think, Justin, with your history with this particular branch of science, you will be very ecstatic about knowing you have the Qing to thank for this.
Schmiance?
Yep. The Qing developed the scientific method of philology, which is a branch of linguistics dedicated to the study of the structure and development of languages. That's right, all those language trees that you have to learn when you study linguistics about Indo-European this or Germanic that, it's the Chinese. It's the Qing that do this.
I have nightmares of cognitive linguistics. I am forever traumatized by a linguistics professor. So the fact that the Chinese are one of the earliest to develop it, I mean, I get it because there's also like 3,000 different Chinese dialects, if not many more. So they're probably like, all right, how the hell did this happen? We got to figure this out. This is getting out of hand.
They're like, what the hell is going on, guys? Quick, make a chart and figure out how we got here.
Yeah, I imagine that some poor bureaucrat was tasked with figuring out that number as some filler task and ended up just diving down this massive rabbit hole. Just, okay, in this village they speak this dialect. Okay, in this village they speak a different. Oh, how do you tell them apart?
Yeah. So the Qing invent philology. It comes from the combination of being obsessed with the past and trying to figure out what everyone is saying and why no one can agree how to pronounce the word milk. Is it milk, milk, malk? What are we doing? What is the vowel doing? There's an I written there, but no one agrees.
If you say malk, you're wrong. You're wrong.
No.
Milk.
Hello.
Okay. Anyways, yeah. So it's interesting, and then as time goes on, in the mid 19th century, there's unrest afoot.
Yeah. The Qing's expansion catches up with them.
Like any good empire, to be fair.
Yeah. At about the 1840s, it really starts catching up with them. There's a massive increase in population, combined with the consolidation of land ownership, so that only a few wealthy individuals own all the land. Remember all those titles and landings that the Qing gave out to people when they were first taking over? Well, those people have been systematically either bought out or are buying out everyone else.
Yay, consolidation.
And that is how those people have spent the last 160 years by the time we get to this shenanigans.
If I buy land over here and I buy this land over here, if I buy this.
Yep. Additionally, the capability of the Manchu armies had waned. There had been defeats in some foreign wars that had really shamed them and thinned their ranks. There's been a lot of corruption that sees a lot of the key funding needed to maintain or expand their military go to vanity projects in the capital. The most famous of which is when the Navy's entire annual budget was diverted to the creation of a marble boat
Oh
in the
no.
Summer Palace.
If you
The
really want
Summer
to,
Palace does not have direct access to water, and marble does not float.
you really are trying to sink the dynasty with that one. Something's really
Yep.
afloat here.
It was a vanity project. It existed for people to have parties on it.
I don't know why he would do that about.
That was the entire budget of the Navy.
The Navy, the Navy. Oh my god. To make use of it when you're not being a party playboy, you're effectively hiring soldiers to stand there and stand guard in your front garden.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Not the worst thing a Chinese emperor has spent money on. It's close, but it's not.
Like a terracotta army or something?
Yeah, something equally vain. Yep. Additionally, there have been several severe floods and famines rocking the land. Divine retribution or something, losing the mandate of heaven. Additionally, the Qing obsession with the past bites them in the butt, as a lot of the 19th century emperors want to modernize. They want to westernize the country. They want to introduce industrialization. They want things like telegraphs and factories.
A lot of Western goods.
Yeah. And the local officials are violently against this because it is not the Chinese way. If it were good, it would have been the Chinese way for centuries, because apparently that's how technology works.
Why would we need to innovate if we're already the best? That is such a German mentality.
Yeah. It's like it's just one of those things that just like that's not how technology works.
But why would we develop anything new if what do we have works?
Yeah.
Oh my god, the basis of if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Basically, this is not traditional Chinese. Therefore, it is bad, and you are a bad person for trying to use it. Is more or less the logic of all the local officials whenever the Qing try to change anything. And this all comes to a head in two massive simultaneous rebellions against Qing rule. The Taiping Rebellion of 1850 to 1864, and the Neon Rebellion of 1853 to 1868. We're going to start with the big one here, the Taiping Rebellion. 17 provinces, 14 years, 20 million lives lost.
Holy.
Basically, World War I, but the world is China.
Yeah, that is entirely Chinese, and that is absurd. 20 million lives lost.
Yeah.
That is a literal meat grinder. You could probably see the carbon offset of that many lives going at once.
Yep.
Oh, that's insane.
Yep. The Taiping are led by Hong Ziquan, who claimed to be the brother of Jesus Christ.
Interesting.
Now, Hong's policies here are going to see the Qing shift violently against Christianity. By that claim alone.
What was his claim to being Jesus' brother, though?
He had prophetic visions in which God declared him to be the brother of Jesus Christ and gave him a heavenly mandate, during which he was to declare himself the heavenly king, lead a peasant uprising against the Qing, and establish the kingdom of heaven on earth in China, at which point it would presumably become the Garden of Eden once again. Keep in mind, everyone is starving to death right now. This is a very popular idea.
Understandably so, but wow. So he gained a lot of power off of that.
He gained a massive amount of power. When the Taiping Rebellion is put down, 100,000 people all declare that they would rather commit suicide than allow the Qing to capture them, or even be allowed to be released into Qing rule.
Wow.
Keep in mind, 14 years, 20 million dead, and the entire peasant army following him is still willing to fight to the death. By the end of this, it is horrible. Now, on a less religious note, they did have certain political policies that they wanted implemented. Most notably, collective land ownership.
We must seize the means of production.
Yep.
Us.
Yeah. This policy resonates very well with famine-stricken peasants.
You know, is this the roots of communist and socialist China?
This is the roots of both Chinas.
Oh, wow.
Both, fun fact, both the Chinese nationalists who now rule from Taiwan, and the Chinese communists who rule mainland China trace their religions to this rebellion.
Wow.
Neither of them claim to be the successors of the Qing. They instead both claim to be the successors of the Taiping Rebellion.
We are following Hong.
Yeah. It is it is quite ridiculous. The amount of influence this rebellion has. Like they are on the list for being their own Historical Humans podcast episode.
I mean, hell, 20 million lives lost. That is such a large human capital number. Like, we laugh and we joke about it, but the sheer scale of that is absurd.
Yeah, the violence implemented as a result of this rebellion is truly horrific.
Oh, and you know that's not all soldiers. There's civilian casualty loss in that.
The entire Taiping army is technically civilian since it's peasant militia.
Oh.
One of the other things that was a tenet of the Taiping was that the Qing do not deserve to rule China because the Qing are Manchu and not Chinese. So that was a big thing for them, was a sense of ethnocentrism.
Hundreds of years later, they still don't feel akin to them.
Yeah. Now, in 1853, they seize Nanjing, which they rename and declare their Kingdom of Heaven as the capital. At which point, Jerusalem would like to have a word with you.
Yeah. Oh. Well, no, there's a lot of Western centrism, so it's kind of nice to see it go the other way for once.
Yeah. They send out excursions to capture Beijing and Shanghai. Both fail, but they gain many field victories, even if they are unable to take these cities by siege. This is because that the Taiping armies were extraordinarily disciplined. The religious fervor that Hong generates in the belief of the people behind him, he translates into a regiment of discipline, self-sacrifice, and absolute relentless violence. So much so that the Taiping, in many engagements, prove more sturdy than the Qing's own armies. They are less fearful of dying, they break less often, and they are more willing to charge you down.
Yeah. Well, when you have nothing to lose, it makes it a lot easier to fight for everything.
Yeah. They actually had cohesion, which is the really terrifying part of the Taiping, and why this rebellion spreads across 17 provinces, takes 14 years to get put down, and costs so many millions of lives.
I mean, yeah, it makes so much sense. It makes it, yeah.
Yeah. Now, the Qing retake Nanjing in 1864, which effectively ends the rebellion. But that does not end the Taiping. For you see, many loyalists survive, and they go over and they join the Neon Rebellion.
Oh, no.
prolonging that rebellion by a further 4 years.
Jeez. What's the human cost of that?
I don't officially have it. The Neon Rebellion was a very different beast from the Taiping Rebellion. So it's a major revolt in eastern and southern China that sought to take advantage of the distraction provided by the Taiping in northern China to sort of exploit weakened Qing rule.
I mean, that happens a lot, too, though, when you see weakened powers after prolonged battle and prolonged war where multiple rebellions will uprise. The Romans knew that quite well.
Yeah, it's one of the issues. Now, thing is, the Neon Rebellion kicks off when the Taiping take excuse me, Nanjing. That's when that blow showing that the Qing could lose a major city to these people was the cue for the Neon to start rebelling. Now,
if they could do it, we can too.
Now, the Neon did not want territory. They were a coalition of deserters who were fleeing the war against the Taiping, smugglers, and very angry peasants with nothing left to lose. And what they did is they organized themselves into, they gathered up about a total of 50,000 soldiers, which is divided into 5 armies of about equal size, that they then dispersed through the countryside to raid it for all it was worth. The primary purpose of the Neon is to raid the Qing and more or less cause havoc. Think of what a feast there could be if we just ate the rich kind of mentality.
I mean, not the worst idea.
Yeah, it's that mentality. Now, in 1863, they lose Guiyang, which was their stronghold. It was their capital base of operations, as well as the main leader who was holding these 5 armies and this coalition together. However, they don't get put out because the next year, Nanjing falls, the Taiping Rebellion is put down, and all the Taiping diehards flee south towards the Neon Rebellion and bolster them.
If we riot, we riot together.
Yeah. So the remnants of the Taiping reinforce and give their structural organization to the coalition forces of the Neon and begin a guerrilla war, more or less ambushing any Qing military target they can find and a few things that aren't military targets, and running away. They do some excellent cavalry raids, but the Qing just start systematically blockading every road until they corner them and crush them.
I mean, pincer moves, can't beat it.
Yeah, and that takes about 4 years.
Jeez. I mean, you're talking 5 regiments of 10,000 soldiers. That's a lot.
Yeah. Bolstered by maybe another 100,000 from the Taiping fleeing south.
Jeez, so that's quite a big bolster. That gives them 3 times their numbers.
Yeah. Keep in mind, this is a country of about 450 million people.
Dropping the bucket, but still.
Yeah. So
no, 430 or 20 million. They lost how many during the Taiping?
Yeah, they lost 20 million.
You gotta dock it
over the Taiping. Yeah. You gotta deduct that. You gotta deduct it to 430 there.
Minus points.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, and the losses for China and the Qing here just start piling on throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. Even as they put down these rebellions, they are massively weakened. One of the precursors to these rebellions that starts weakening them is the First Opium War, 1839 to 1842. Both this war and the Anglo-French War, which we will cover briefly next, are the subject of Historical Humans episode Season 2, Episode 25, Episode 51 overall, Opium Diplomacy. So if you want to hear more about these in detail, we recommend you check out those videos, as we will just be giving a cursory review of these 2 wars.
Shameless plug. I love it.
Yeah, there's going to come a bunch here. So, what happens here is in 1839, China attempts to suppress the illicit trade of opium by foreign nations, namely the British, within its borders. A war breaks out over the Qing assertion of their right to try British smugglers who are caught in China. The British invade China and force the Qing to grant them major trade concessions, as well as a few extra legal rights for the trouble of having to invade you for daring to, try criminals in your own court.
The absurdity of it too at the end of the day is the British spent years craftily and masterfully getting a vast swath of the hundreds of millions of people in China vastly addicted to opium just so they can get more favorable trades on their tea because they couldn't figure out anything else that the Chinese wanted from them. Yep. They were entirely self-sufficient and needed no other trade goods. So the British made one and made it highly, highly, highly addictive.
Yeah, because the British wanted tea and porcelain, and dear God, were they going to get it?
God, the absurd lengths that they went through for their tea.
Now it gets more absurd the second time round with the Anglo-French War, 1856 to 1860, also known as the Second Opium War, where Britain and France used the ongoing Taiping Rebellion to renew hostilities in order to receive increased trade concessions, as as well as a number of extra legal privileges to members of their nation, to British and French nationals operating in China, such as impunity from any crime.
Hey, wait, that doesn't sound very fair.
Yeah. Effectively, what this war was the British and French attacked China over Chinese efforts to hunt down rebels, mildly inconveniencing members of both nations. That is how flimsy this war was. And the Qing cannot stop it because, keep in mind, it's 1856. They have two major rebellions going on.
This is also like peak colonialism, peak imperialism. Like, this is really where these empires and these nations are really trying to flex their colonial strength.
Yeah, there's a great political cartoon from about this time of all the European powers with giant pairs of scissors cutting up China, mocking them for what they are doing to another nation's sovereignty because of like this war. The next war we're going to talk about is the Sino-Japanese War, 1894-1895. This is a war over control of Korea. And once again, we talk about this in greater detail in our episode season 2, episode 4, episode 50 overall, Choson Korea. We'll be covering it briefly here, but if you want a detailed account of what happens in this war, we recommend checking that video.
Yet another shameless plug.
We got a lot of callbacks in this one. There's a lot of things that we've done that like tie into this video.
Wait, so you're telling me that history overall has a lot of themes and a lot of interlinking storylines across multiple swatches of land all across the world?
Yes. Listen.
Yeah. What do you take me for?
In season 3, we've talked about the Khanites and the Mughal Empire, both of which adjoined the Qing. In some fashion. In season 2, we talked about Choson Korea and opium diplomacy, both of which directly impact the Qing. So it is only natural that these things come up when discussing the Qing.
How dare they?
Yeah. But effectively, what the Sino-Japanese War was Japan wrests control of Korea from China. Now, Korea had long been a puppet state of China, sharing Chinese foreign policies and governing its own internal stuff independently as this nice little buffer peninsula that China didn't really have to worry about, but got the benefit of controlling.
I mean they definitely were pretty resource heavy too, as a pretty
Yeah.
well evolved little colony too.
Yeah, it is. It was a tidy little arrangement for both of them.
But then the
Japan,
Japanese had imperial
yeah, yeah. The Japanese break this because they are planning
ambitions.
to conquer Korea. Um, the war embarrasses China with the loss of its oldest puppet state and establishes Japan as a major power on the world stage. Someone the other powerful nations, particularly those of Europe and the United States, have to take seriously. This will in no way inflate Imperial Japan's ego and lead to certain miscalculations in the late night in the early 1940s.
Okay, but that's still give them. They conquered like half of China.
Yeah,
They
yeah, no, I was
they
like,
destroyed Nanjing.
oh yeah, they do very very well right up until right up until a certain harbor raid is approved, and then things start turning for them.
Is that a bald eagle in the background?
Yeah, yeah, sleeping giant, everybody, sleeping giant.
Uh,
Yeah,
Interesting to see the roots lay here, and it around this time Japan is also doing some island conquering in their nearby area.
yeah, yeah. The Pan-Asiatic cohabitation sphere is getting its foundations laid.
Lovely.
Yeah. Next up on the list of things to go wrong for China, and also a pending subject of a potential future Historical Humans episode in its own right, is the Boxer Rebellion of 1900.
Oh no.
Yep. This
Why is this all related?
is all right. This was a sanctioned revolt that attempted to remove all foreigners from China. Keep in mind, foreigners have impunity from all crimes, meaning that if a British person didn't like the way your face looked, he could beat you to death in the street and it was illegal for you to defend yourself. Naturally, the Chinese people of China did not like this.
Yeah, I could almost imagine why, especially with everything that had happened.
Yeah. Now, what happens is in 1900, the Boxers take control of Beijing and begin killing all foreigners and Christians they can find.
I bet that goes over very
Yep.
well with the coalition of foreigners that were originally there.
Yep. In response, Japan, Britain, Russia, Italy, Austria-Hungary, the United States, France, all in
Hey, you're missing
Italy,
one.
all invade. They just all invade.
Gotta collect them all.
Yeah,
Coalition
I think,
armies.
yep. I think everyone sends a force. Like anyone who had any colony sends a force. I think the Germans are there as well in
I, I
their early form.
I just love it. It's the epitome of like the schoolyard bully pushing over the little kid, and then his big brother and all his brother's friends show up on their BMX bikes, and you're like, oh my god, you're so big and strong. And then they
Yeah,
just beat the shit out of the like half their age kid.
yeah, yeah. They are just mugging everyone here. What this leads to is all the foreign legations are besieged by the Boxers, who are in turn besieged outside Beijing by like this coalition of like almost a dozen foreign armies.
So it was a siege within a siege within a siege.
It was a siege within a siege. Yeah,
So the
legation
foreign
Boxers army.
sir, the boxers, they're breaching the wall. Sir, the coalition is breaching the wall.
Yeah, there is a
What in the
horribly
Attack on
colonialist,
Titan?
but very catchy song called 55 Days at Peking
Oh man.
that it's in like every language from each country, and it's the song of like 11 nations because I think that's the final total of everyone who technically sent troops.
Wow. And it's a song about this event?
it's a song. It's a song about this siege, um, and each nation has its own complete version of the song, and you sing them one after the other.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
about the glory of being called from your fatherland to liberate Peking. And they take turns deciding whether or not they want to demonize the Chinese people or the Empress of China. They take turns deciding who to blame.
Because God forbid they don't want people there that are doing them harm and actively working against their best
Yeah.
interests.
Now, Beijing is sacked by all the nations, and
Naturally.
China is forced to pay reparations to all of them for the trouble of having to come and burn their capital down.
You know, Europe was really big on their reparations at the beginning of the 20th century. They really got the idea that they were entitled to compensation for their time. Were you
Yep.
improperly inconvenienced by one of your colonies? Try reparations today. Make
Yep.
them pay
Yep.
you.
War too expensive? Take out a loan and then give it to the people you conquer.
And tell them they owe you money indefinitely. It's not going to eventually bite you in the ass when you make a nation pay reparations that are 5 times their GDP.
Yep. Yay, forever. Yep.
I hate how all roads end up there. I don't know if
Yep.
you ever
Anyway,
played that game in high school of Wikipedia.
nah, but all roads do lead to Rome. I agree.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah. Anywho, uh, and that's going to bring us to what will finally end the rule of the Qing Dynasty, and that is the Republican Revolution in 1911.
Even them in
This
China?
is, yep. So revolutionary groups began forming throughout the country since 1900, since the Boxer Rebellion got put down and more or less proved that the Qing, despite their best efforts, have become little more than sock puppets and punching bags for foreign nations.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh.
uh, the Republican Revolution in October of 1911 forces the abdication of Emperor Wantong, also known as Puyi, a boy of 6 years old. He has been ruling since he was 3.
Well, okay, so a few things with that. One, you have a 3-year-old as your emperor.
Yeah.
Two, how do you convince a 6-year-old to resign? All right, little
So
Puyi, sign on the line here. Write your
uh,
name big and
that that is actually one of the issues they have, which is why even though the abdication is forced in October of 1911, uh, Wantong's reign officially ends in 1912 because you have to go through all the different regions and the members of the royal family uh, to sort of legally secure this document and more or less then also at the same time go through the trouble of establishing some form of government to take its place. It's a republic. It's why it's called the Republican Revolution. And a provisional government under its leader, Yuan Shikai, is installed. And that brings about the end of the Qing and the end of Imperial China.
God. And just in the depth of time we covered here, which is 376 years, we also talked briefly about the Ming Dynasty, which was another additional 300 years prior. That's a
Yep.
big chunk of history, and that for China is just a blip on the radar.
Yep.
Oh, there's so much we could actually go into and talk about, but it's interesting to me that this lasted until a very modern era. I mean, this is pre World War One, but not by much.
Yeah. Yeah. The final ending date is 1912.
Wow. The
I
year,
believe they have 2 years before World War One breaks out
yeah,
over in Europe.
1914.
Yeah, yeah. So 2 years before the European powers are too preoccupied to do anything.
And then it's what? How long until the communist revolution after this?
Uh, I believe they break out during World War II. Though I can check. Uh, They are officially proclaimed in 1949 by Chairman Mao.
Okay, so shortly thereafter, World War II.
Yeah,
So they're rebuilding
yeah,
after Japan invaded.
yeah, yeah. However, the roots of the rebellion begin in 1927. They just don't officially declare themselves a government until 1949.
So, and then this Republican government is still currently active, correct? In exile, working out of Taiwan, correct?
Uh,
I think that's the
the
case, isn't it?
Chinese, These people do become, I believe, the Chinese nationalists, the people who established the Republican government.
Okay, interesting.
Do believe they become the Chinese nationalists. The Chinese nationalist movement becomes Taiwan. The Chinese communists, which is an insurrection that begins in 1927 and ends in 1949, uh, becomes the People's Republic of China, or what is now mainland China.
There's so many different histories that you aren't taught on a regular basis in the U.S.
Yeah,
And this is kind of an interesting one. It's
yeah,
oh,
yeah. My favorite part is that both of them claim to be the true heir of a rebellion against the Qing. Like, like the Taiping Rebellion does not successfully govern anything except the city of Nanjing for a couple years, and yet both governments of that or both, I should say, entities that claim to be the government of China claim that that is the source of their legitimacy. A
well,
failed rebellion.
and I know China's a massive nation. However, a lot of their population is based along the eastern part of the country to the point where most of the population is split on a north-south divide. So the difference between the northern part of the countries and the southern part, that's a huge cultural difference. So it doesn't exactly surprise me that there were uprisings and rebellions like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's not surprising that there are rebellions. It's just ironic that both Chinas, which claim to be the one true government of China, say that claim their legitimacy stems from, or at the very least, their movement began as a failed rebellion.
I mean, you don't
Which,
always have to succeed in your rebellions. I mean, the United States is
yeah,
one for two, but we tried.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But let's be honest. Let's be honest. The government does not claim legitimacy from the second one.
It was still a rebellion. That was a failed rebellion.
The current government does not claim it is legitimate because of the Civil War. It claims it is legitimate because it put down the Civil War.
I mean, that is a pretty strong claim to power.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, let's leave it there. That's been the Qing Dynasty. We hope you liked this format, potentially better than the List of Kings formats for our dynastic videos. Whether you did or you didn't, please let us know in the comments so we can make better decisions for your content in the future.
We're always trying to improve, so let us know how, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.